Dun, 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 dun. We're live.
Yay.
Hurry. See, like, your version is prettier, but then, like, I also love that Vin and Ellen are on mine. Oh, look at Vin. She's like a badass on Sam's.
I straight up ordered all of the books that I didn't own from Brandon Sanderson in one fell swoop from UK Amazon because this is the UK print. The books were actually not expensive. The shipping is what made it cost like a normal American price book, but like the trilogy was like a total of $20. And I was like, yes.
I have all three in this edition. Mm-hmm. I bought Mistborn, the first one, from Barnes & Noble, and then I found 2 and 3 at my local half-price books. So it was literally buy one, get one, because each one was half off.
That's fun.
So, yeah, it all matches, and I'll probably eventually have, like, a shelf of just all Sanderson stuff.
I mean, it's now messy because it's stacked, but, I mean, example A, this nonsense.
Right.
That right there is the 10th anniversary edition of The Name of the Wind. But I'm not mad about that.
See, that's one that I need to do. I haven't done any Patrick Rothfuss yet. I'm doing Robin Hobb and Brandon Sanderson this year, and then Sammy and I are going to tackle Wheel of Time next year.
I might be reading it, so let me know if you want to.
That would be fun.
I'm not going to rush into the rest of them because I just am reading too many things right now. So I'm going to finish book 3 because they're kind of, I don't know how the timing works, but they're sold at least in like sets of 3. So
I don't know anything about the Wheel of Time series. I'm purposely going in completely blind.
That's all for what I know.
I kind of went into the Stormlight Archive and Mistborn blind too. And when it comes to fantasy books, I really like to just kind of go in and be there, because that's part of the selling for me, is how well the author can be like, yes, these are all the things that are part of the world, and I shouldn't need a synopsis on the back to tell me.
So all I will say about The Name of the Wind is I think it's absolutely an amazing book that everybody should read, but until he has an actual date for book 3, not worth it. I mean, it is worth it to read. Like, I loved it. I've read both the
shit.
But at the same time, I'm like, but is it worth it really? Like, it's already been 11 years. So and he's like, I don't have a date yet.
That's a really long time. That's a really long time. That's like how George R. Martin, like in his Game of Thrones books that are like still coming out, it's like, bro, I understand like respecting the art and stuff, but write your shit.
Yeah, there was an interview I think or it was like a discussion panel or something with Stephen King and George R. Martin, and Stephen King was like, yeah, I just churn out like 200 pages every like few days, and George R. Martin was like, what the hell? How do you do that? And he's like, I can't just do that. I'm like,
we noticed that, George R. Martin.
We see that now.
I'll probably read the series. Oh yeah, Scarlet Moon, 11 years. That was. And also book 2 is like book 1 is just amazing of Name of the Wind. Book 2 is like a little bit of not a letdown in comparison, but you're like, and then there was just nothing. There's no third book's not out yet, so you're just like, wait.
How long do I have to wait for the next book?
Yeah, I'm a person that needs to, if I'm ever going to watch a TV show for something or a movie adaptation of a book, I can separate them and judge them as 2 separate arts, but I have to read the books before I see the visual, which is why I haven't read Game of Thrones yet, because I've already seen the show. They're making a Wheel of Time show, so I was like, okay, reading that first.
So, Sammy, have you watched Game of Thrones? Have you read it? Okay.
I've read the first book. I haven't read anything other than that. But from what I remember of like the show and stuff, the first season and the first book kind of line up pretty well. I was actually talking to my husband about this the other day. Seasons 7 and 8, to fans that have watched the series, don't watch them. Stop after season 6.
Oh no.
Like 8 is awful. 7 is okay, but basically like season 5,
They divulge from the books.
yeah, after season 5 is where the books run out, so then they just kind of do their own thing and you're like, what the heck, dude?
So so two things. One is that I watched Game of Thrones, like, I want to say I made it to season 3, but it may have just been season 2. It was the season where they neutered Tiernan. Like, he was crying because his, like, I don't know, the prince dude was being a jerk, and it was, I was just like, what, like, what are we doing here? Why? And so I don't know. I haven't really gotten much into Game of Thrones. There's a lot of stuff there that I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah.
But then there's another series. It's a YA series called The 100. Have you guys heard of this?
It's my favorite show.
Okay. So, like, I watched the show, and again, favorite character, episode 2, dead. I'm like, why? Why does this happen every time?
Well,
and my friends are like, listen, you've got to read the book because Wells sticks around. And I'm like, okay, I'll try.
So the books and TV show are very, very different. The book wasn't actually out when the TV show was made, and they just
like they're writing them on two separate.
They took the idea and made it the TV show.
Yeah.
I think independent. So like the 100 books, they're not like great writing, if we're being honest. It's kind of like Twilight quality of work.
Oh,
because I love the characters so much from the TV show. So I think they're so sweet. I will say, if you watch the 100 TV show, do not get attached to anybody, especially if they're in any way like close to Clark, because they are.
Yeah, well, so like, I can't deal with killing a character for shock value. You know, like, that was one of the things with The Walking Dead that, like, I started to just be really like, this is why are we even doing this? It's not part of the graphic novels. You're just doing it to piss off the audience. Like,
so I will say Wells' death does impact a lot of the show, so it wasn't just for shock value. But
well, that's good to know. But yeah, I was really mad about that.
Understandably, he was great.
And then the other big, like, emotional reaction that I had between book and media was, oh my God, why can I not remember the name? This is so dumb. Ready Player One. The book is amazing.
I loved the book, but I haven't seen the movie yet. Is it worth watching the movie?
Don't.
If you want it to be like the book, don't. But if you
don't.
I liked it, but I also, at a certain point, like 10 years ago, had to emotionally in my brain separate works of like written fiction versus works of like television movie fiction.
Because that's what I was going to say too. Is like, the book was amazing. The movie was like a reinterpretation of the book for modern day, but it's nothing like the book at all. So whenever I watched it, I was like, this is just the biggest steaming pile. So mad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see.
Let's actually do some discussion of it.
The actual book that we're here to talk about.
Let's see. So, what are the thoughts on chapter 39 epigraph? It's like the first question that we have up. No, it's not the first question. Let's see. Was anyone else confused by Spook's role in the book for Hero of Ages? I was not confused by Spook's role. I will answer that shortly and then pass the question over to you guys because I am curious for your opinions.
I wasn't confused per se. I was more intrigued about where he was going. For me personally, I was like, Spook was like in this book. I liked how much more we got to hear from him in comparison to the other book, firstly, and I think his role has a lot of mystery involved. for a reason, because he's trying to figure out why the heck he's seeing things, and like also his magic powers are so cool. The fact that like he has to wear a blindfold kind of thing because he's too good at his things. So I liked his role in this book.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I do feel that he, in this book anyway, he kind of came out of nowhere. Like, he wasn't around much in books 1 and 2. I mean, he was there, but he really came into himself in this book. And so I can see where the confusion could come from, because he did just kind of like, I'm here and I'm a badass now, like.
Yeah. So Lachette has not read any of the GOT books except for the first one, and so she provides no comments. I can understand that. I did not bother to read the Game of Thrones books because I feel like Bowties and Books Jesse from Bowties and Books put it a lot more succinctly than I ever could, but there's a lot of the assault that happens in that book from the male point of view. And I'm just not okay with that. Like, I mean, being assaulted on the regular and then it happening from a male point of view is like, listen, this is not like, nope.
Just what you see in the show definitely requires like a trigger for the book and the show.
Yes. Yes. I remember I was watching several episodes of that show and I was like, I had to pause it and like leave the room. It's like, this is what, like, this is on cable? What is this? Okay, so Spook's role in the book, I felt like, yes, I had the same reaction as you, Sammy, where he was not really prominent until book 3, and then in book 3 he was suddenly a badass, but I liked his place as like the secondary survivor. Like he's the one who knew Vin, who knew Ellen, who knew Kelsier, and came out on the other side. So he could like, he was both sides of the story instead of just the one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think it was like I thought it was very cool to actually hear from his perspective, because like you both mentioned, he just kind of was off to the side. He couldn't even like speak properly in the first book, if y'all remember that. So I did like his character. I did like his just like the internal like battle he had with himself on some of the issues. Was really cool as well.
Oh my gosh! So like he had what was his name that they? So Kelsier gave him the name Spook, but then his name before that was like Lespontus or.
I don't know what his name was. I listened to it on an audiobook. A lot of things were pronounced differently than I would imagine them. Like for example, the word like ferrochemy, the audiobook is pronounced ferrochemy, like with a T. And I was very like I went to read the last book, or like I went to physically just read Mistborn Era 2 instead of listening to it, and I was like, nope, not right now. I know how it's pronounced in the audiobook.
Right. Can't deal with this. So I can't find it quick enough for my impatience, but he had his name, and the name was the one that he gave Clubs whenever Clubs yes, the name he gave himself. He told Clubs his name, but it wasn't his name. It because Clubs was like, "What's your name, boy?" And he gave this word, and it was a word for "I've been abandoned."
Oh yeah.
Not his name. And then if you look at the fact that Kelsier had such an in-depth understanding of culture, I feel like I can look back and see that Kelsier heard what Spook was trying to say, and so gave Spook a name. And that was why Spook had such this hard attachment to Kelsier.
Yeah.
And like once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, I can't deal.
I'm also in preparation for the next question, trying to figure out what the heck the chapter 39 epigraph is, because I didn't have the physical book in front of me when I was listening to it. So I don't know what that means.
Even now, I can barely grasp the scope of all this. The events surrounding the end of the world seem even larger than the final empire and the people within it. I sense shards of something from long ago, a fractured presence, something spanning the void. I have delved and searched and have only been able to come up with a single name, Adonasium. Who or what it was, I do not yet know. I have no idea what the fuck to make of that, to be honest.
Oh, it's this little thing right here.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that. Yeah. So like it was a very bizarre thing that I came to the conclusion to, but it broke my heart for him that the person who gave him his name was now dead. And it was like, spook. But he got to come out on the other side. Like he got his second chance at life, so I'm pretty cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what that epigraph is supposed to mean.
Is that one of the things they found written in the metal in one of the chambers?
I think this was just like Sazed's
like, yeah.
Yeah.
He was doing his god thing.
I sense shards of something from long ago, a fractured presence, something spanning the void. That's the kind of thing that makes me like, these shards are important.
Okay, so yes. Okay, I'll answer that in a vague way because it is it's important in the span of the entirety of the Cosmere, and that is still a mystery. I just recently read Arcanum Unbounded, and which is, you should not read that until you've read everything else in the Cosmere. Just to clarify, don't read it. Spoilers. But the shards are definitely important, and that is the basis for the magic on all of the planets in the Cosmere. And I assume by the end of the Stormlight Archive, we will have the answer, but the answer doesn't really fully exist yet. That's some lore up in there.
So Ruin and Preservation are two of the shards, right?
Sorry?
Ruin and Preservation are two of the shards, right?
I don't actually know the answer to that. But
so Brian McClure kind of popped up in there and said that it was Ruin and Preservation, and then two from Elantris that I did not pick up on in my read through of Elantris, and I do not have it as a physical book.
I just read Elantris. I didn't pick anything up from that.
Right. Well, like, so Brian strikes me as one of those people who he's in it for the fandom, you know, like he's here for this. So, yeah, I think the shards are going to end up being important. Something that fascinates me about Brandon Sanderson as an author is because he helped Robert Jordan finish the Wheel of Time series after Robert Jordan had passed away. He has more ambition and motivation to finish the Cosmere series before he dies. And I heard him talking about that in one of his lectures on YouTube recently. And I was like, no, you can't die. Stop talking about that. Like, you have to be immortal. This is, you can't do this to me.
Relative middle age. He would encourage me about his longevity of life if he lost a little bit of weight, just being honest. But as long as he doesn't go outside during the pandemic, it'll be fine.
Right. Stay home, damn it.
Yeah, but Scarlett, I agree with what you said about the era 2 and that epigraph. That's, yeah. Basically, with that epigraph, you have to wait till you read more. The whole, like, read and find situation. So.
Let's see. So then, what was your reaction when you realized Sazed's final role?
I was shook. That's all.
So the thing is, at the beginning of Hero of Ages, I was like, oh, it's a Terraceman. And the only Terraceman it could be is Sazed. And then there was like a few chapters in and I was like, well, maybe it's still Vin. Maybe Vin is doing this. But then it didn't make sense for Vin to be writing the epigraphs. So then I knew that Sazed was the person writing the epigraphs. But for his position at the end of the book, I was like, whoa, wait. What? Hold on.
When it clicked in his head and like I could visual. I was listening to it, so I don't know if y'all have the same experience, but I could like visualize that he was like, "Holy crap! It's supposed to be me!" And like the light bulb went off in his head. I envisioned his like eyes being like, "Oh, all right, let's go, boy. And then he like went and did the things and saved the
I can't wait for Mistborn to be on screen. I'm so excited.
Excited.
I
Wait,
need it
what?
to happen.
You're on screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sanderson is writing the screenplay for, or the screenplay, is that the word?
Yeah, screenplay for Era 1. And
Yeah.
like, I'm like, yes.
It's like
yes,
25% in with it.
Lachette could visualize it as well. You guys are so fortunate that way. It's kind of, it's weird to explain, but like, I don't see.
I get what you mean because I don't always either. Yeah, so there's actually, and I think I've mentioned this potentially in a different that one live stream that we accidentally did that was really long. But
It was fun.
yeah, it was great. But the faster you read, like after you cross a certain threshold with the speed that you read, your brain doesn't actually process the words. It like flips the switch. Like, so you have to force yourself if it doesn't come naturally to you, which is part of the reason I read so fast, because it doesn't come naturally to me if I'm reading slowly either. So it's like a science thing, and the brain is nuts. That's all.
So I get what you're saying there, because like if I'm listening to an audiobook, it's different. I can visualize an audiobook, but that's because I have the words. Like, yeah, it's like the words are coming in without my having to process them necessarily. So then as I'm processing the words, I can then process pictures to go with those words. But I don't know, it always struck me, I didn't used to like writers like Brandon Sanderson who provided these very rich, like detailed visualizations of things. It used to just really bog me down. But it took a really long time for me to get to that place where it's like, yeah, okay, I can start to try and see the picture here.
Yes, that's exactly.
That moment where the jaw just.
No, I will say though, like for Sazed, whatever, however people pronounce it.
Sazed is how it's pronounced in the audiobook.
Really? Okay, I might. It's been a while. I did this in January, so yeah. I think like looking back reflectively on this, there's no one else it could have been, because Sazed actually he had the most knowledge and experience, and he like knew all the things because of his time as a terrorist. So things that are kind of like mind drives, but they're like jewelry things. The Ferrochem magic of storing memory.
Copper mines and
yeah, it's been a while. There's no one else that could have been. It wouldn't have been done as well, and it's actually really interesting. Brief teaser for Era 2, like how people reflect on the way he did things, because it does things in Era 2. Yeah, I can't really say more because that's a spoiler, but it's really interesting how it's reflected on, because Sazed, I think, does still play a brief role in that.
So, not to put you on the spot, Sammy, but are you comfortable speaking about like religious and spiritual thought processes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that Sammy and I are not religious, correct? I have that correct.
Right.
Okay. So how did it feel to you to be so attached to someone who was clearly so religious at the base?
I feel like it didn't bother me because I know Sanderson is religious.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of it was pulled from his experiences.
Right.
And I actually have some friends that are also of his religion. I can't think of what it is right now.
He's a Mormon.
Mormon, right?
That
Latter-day Saints.
So they're really intense too. So I think being able to have, since I have like personal knowledge of that, it didn't bother me. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna let them do their thing. Like, they're not going to affect the way that I think about things.
Sazed was one of those characters for me who, like, at the beginning, I was like, oh, he's going to be the one that's, like, preaching all the time. I'm so exhausted with him already. But
What?
then, like, whenever he lost his faith, I was like, oh, wait, I can relate to you now. And that was something that really shocked me, is like, well, for him to lose his faith was actually the point at which I was like, oh, hey, human.
I thought it was interesting. I'm like, I'm more spiritual than religious, but I do technically follow a Christian faith. So it's, I thought it was very interesting, and I respected him a lot for it, because when he was trying to like give Vin a religion, he didn't push his own religion, and like I appreciated the scholarly aspect of like how he did study all of the religions, and I thought that was really interesting. And I did admire the whole journey with the like loss of faith situation as well. That was like, I think it was really well done. Yeah.
Oh, this is a good question. Was he religious, though? Sazed seemed more spiritual than religious, searching and believing in some higher power, but not knowing what that is. Yeah. I admired him for that as well. I wondered how much of that was the fact that his own religion was lost, so that he was sort of
find a replacement or like something else to believe in.
Well, so I kind of thought of it as, so like you have someone who is religious, and then you have someone who is atheist, and that's a person who doesn't believe that there's anything, you know, and then there's someone who's agnostic who says that they don't know. And I found it very funny funny's not the right word, but like I found it interesting that Sazed was as devoted to religion as he was, but then his own religion was so lost to time that he was forced into agnosticism almost. So like he didn't know what his was, but he knew that he believed in it. And he was a very complex character who I enjoyed quite a bit.
I think that's a good way to put it, though. Scarlet Queen. I believe you're Lachette from the
Lachette. Yeah, this is Lachette.
We were just saying Scarlet because I'm like, she mentioned her name on the other one and I forgot it. So Lachette. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, though. He definitely was searching for religion the whole time. I would agree with that.
Oh, that's a good point. He was searching for a lot of the time. That's not something that I had considered about it. I need to look. Scarlet Moon Creations makes it sound like you make cool stuff, Lachette, which makes me think I need to look into your channel. Let's see. So this is actually a question from Lachette. Probably should be saved for the end. How do you see this connecting with the Cosmere and the previous books we've read? What do you think and feel about the Lord Ruler's choices now that we know everything he did? So that's two separate questions. So how do you see this connecting with the Cosmere and the previous books we've read? Here, this is something I can do.
I'm going to let y'all answer this because I've read everything, so I want to hear.
Wait, hang on. There we go. Wait. Yeah, no, show it. Okay, cool. Wait, the thing doesn't work. Hold on.
We are trial by firing, if you cannot tell.
Ta-da! Ta-da! Okay, now actually.
Yeah, we did it.
I don't have a lot of connections yet, except that I know it's a full universe. I know that it's multiple planets. I know that the shards are involved with multiple planets. I know that ruin and preservation were part of those shards. And so like there's something in the magic system with not Hero of Ages. What's the one that we're reading now? Way of Kings. There's something with the magic system and Way of Kings that manipulates stone in the same way that the magic system in Hero of Ages can manipulate stone. But that's really the only connections that I've made so far.
Yeah, I'm about there too. I don't tend to make connections until they're thrown in my face because I just like enjoying the ride. Mm-hmm. So I'm not actually like trying. I'm not that crazy GIF that you see with all the strings and the guy and the, I'm not trying to make the connection. Enjoying the ride.
I think what you said, Sammy, though, is kind of like where I'm at as well, because I didn't really quite realize. I knew the Cosmere existed because I started reading with the Stormlight Archive. That's what I read 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of knew the Cosmere existed, so I was like, okay, this year I'm going to just read it all so that I get the full picture of the universe. But I don't pick up on a lot of the things with the lore, for example, to make all the connections. I know Void is a thing, and I've kind of started to look for him, but that's about all I've done. I think on reread, I'm getting a lot more out of this read of the Stormlight Archive than I did previously. So I'm getting close, but I just know it's all important on the first question.
Yeah.
I'd rather be just immersed in the world and stuff. So
Lachette made a good point here. There's a fourth side to this. There are people who are spiritualists without believing in a religion being man-made with rules, doctrine, etc. And I can say yes to that because I don't hold to any kind of a religion, but I know that as far as psychology is concerned and what statistics show about people with certain mindsets and things like that is that humans are wired to believe that there is something else beyond us. And I think that that's personally, I think that's a lot of that lies in the fear of mortality and the fact that we don't know what happens when we die. So yes, there are people who are definitely just spiritualists, and those people tend to be happier people.
I like
statistically speaking.
On that note, I like the song. It's by this band XTC from the 80s, and there was recently a redone version of these of the American Gods season 2 trailer. But it's called God, and it's did you create us, or did you exist after we made you?
That's a really fun thing about the whole American Gods thing.
The book is above the bookshelf over there. That's my Neil Gaiman stack, but
God, Neil Gaiman, he's so good.
I've been real creeped out by his books lately, but I started to read the horror ones, and that was my mistake.
I can't do horror. I'm chicken shit. I can't do horror.
I can. I just can't do audiobook horror for the same reason I can't do scary movies. So listening to The Sandman's, the full new graphic audiobook production, was a mistake. It was horrifying. So I think I'm going to just read the graphic novel.
I was wondering if I should use a credit on Audible for that. I haven't decided if I'm going to get it or not.
It's really well done. But my God, the villain is you don't meet the real true villain until the 4th or 5th section, and my God, I hate him. He is messed up in the head and is just driving the world crazy, and it's disgusting. And the music and sound effects are nuts. But Taron Egerton is in it in part 3, which was love him.
I found an audiobook. We're really getting distracted here, but I found an audiobook the other day that David Tennant was doing a voice in. I'll have to link that in Discord later, but I was super excited. I saw his name drop and I was like, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
Sammy, are you a big Doctor Who fan?
No.
No?
I haven't actually seen any of it. I want to. There's always something else that, something else to do or read or watch or play video game, it's on the list, but I don't know when I'll do it.
It's a perpetual game of keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Casey?
My roommate loved Doctor Who, but I've known her for 15 years now. And so back in the day, I watched the 10th and 11th Doctor with her. So I got to see David Tennant, got to see Matt Smith. I am very intrigued by the newest Doctor. I think she's awesome, just with the gifs I see on the internet.
Yeah.
I think I'll eventually watch it, but like Sammy said, there's a lot going on. And it's also a huge commitment of just time and stuff.
It is a huge commitment of time. I'm still stuck in the Peter Capaldi seasons because I'm still grieving for David Tennant, who I was disgruntled to see around for 5 seasons. So that whenever he left, I was like, wait, no, come back. I'm sorry. What did you think or feel about the Lord Ruler's choices? I did not think that anything that he did made up for the fact that he murdered all those ska in the middle of the frickin' square. Like, why? Like, you could even say, oh, well, Ruin made him do it. You could fight Ruin until he had you make a massive massacre and genocide of all these people. What?
To hint at the Stormlight Archive, the whole journey before destination thing that you will see shortly, the end goal doesn't matter if how you got there was horrible. Like, yes, you saved the world and all that, but, like, you could have been less of a dick about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, sort of like the whole, like, oh, well, I didn't want the terrorist people coming along because I wanted to make sure that I kept this power locked away so that we wouldn't, like, get into some trouble. But, like,
you could have, like, taught people about it.
There were different, you could have done it in a different way.
Yep.
Yep. No horror. So, like, I read this book called Remember Me, and it's probably a book that you'll hear me rant and rave about a lot, but it's a ghost story, and it stuck with me, and still, if I think about it while I'm laying in bed at night, I have to, like, get up and go turn the lights on and walk around for a little bit, because, like, it freaking freaks me out. I can't deal with horror. Samey.
I don't know what that's
Samey
about.
or...
Probably Doctor Who, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, about there being a lot going on. I'm sorry, Lachette, the comments come in delayed, yeah. Nothing he did explains, excuses, or makes up for basically enslaving most of the people for 1,000 years and then some. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes.
I'm the truth, girl.
Yes. Yeah, so I was not, like, there were some things where it was like, oh, okay, like, I can see why your misguided brain led you here, but I can't see why Elend and Vin are being like, oh, yeah, okay, he was, like, a great ruler and stuff. It's like, guys, stop. You're wrong.
I have a question just for y'all. Like,
sure, yeah, we're through all the discussion questions that were posted. So,
what I want to, like, I was very just like perplexed and like just shocked a little bit when the revealing of like the whole spiking experience happened. Like, especially with Vin and her brother's voice. What did y'all think about that?
Yeah, that was. I mean, I think the whole earring thing was. I think we were. Sorry, I'm like going through it in my brain. I think we were introduced to it when what's his name died in book 2 when he was talking about how he had spikes in his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so that's when I was like, wait a second, is that important? And then the whole "you were never crazy" thing.
Oh my god, that hit so hard.
And then book 3, when it's all explained, you're like, holy crap, like, it all came together, and I was just like, I don't typically see things coming in books, which sometimes makes me feel kind of dumb that I don't see things coming, but I definitely did not see that coming, and I'm just like, wait, what? So, like, the minute I realized that, I took, like, half an hour to, like, think about the other 2 books, and was like, so that happened because of that, and that, and that, and that, and like,
yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah.
So I was intrigued by it. It did 2 things for me. It made me wonder. Oh, it shouldn't have made you feel like an idiot because it was a very subtle.
And I mean, Kelsey encouraged her to keep
for a long time.
Yeah. It was mentioned in the first book and then like never really mentioned.
Oh, so then I'm sorry. Allow me to mute my microphone while I subvert chaos.
That was very loud, and I don't know what happened. It sounded like...
I think her ring light fell because it got dark on her face. What? I don't know what that is.
I don't know what those are.
Pencils and things?
Maybe. Whatever it was very metal sounding.
I'm just here with my chips and guac and having a good time.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so yeah, that was my ring light falling and pulling down my coffee cup full of crochet hooks.
Oh.
Right next to my microphone. So I'm sorry that yes, that was probably loud. So it did 3 things then, because you mentioned Kelsier. One of the things was that it made me wonder about Vin's sister. Because
sorry, I had to think about that for a second.
Right, because Vin's sister was murdered, and then her mom gave her the piercing, which made me think that there was some hemalurgy going on there.
At least with the mom, because the mom lost her mind.
Right. So then the second part was I was not content with the fact that her mom was just crazy. Like, oh, the mom's just crazy, and that's why she did this thing. I have kids of my own, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, like all those are real things. But like that being the basic solution for all of it was just kind of like, wait, what? Like you're going to give all these other characters so much depth, but Vin's mom is just a crazy person. That didn't sit well with me. And then it made me wonder about why Ruin had so much sway over Kelsier that he was able to get him to encourage Vin to keep the earring.
Do we actually know if he has sway? I don't remember that. It's been a while.
There was a part where they said that I'm gonna have to try to find it now, and I'm not gonna be able to. But there was a part where they talked about how Ruin kind of like whispered in Kelsier's ear to keep the earring. And I think it was Sazed that made the observation, actually. So maybe it's in one of the epigraphs.
Interesting. See, audiobooks don't get the epigraphs read.
They do. You just don't realize it.
That's the transition's not as hard. Yeah. Also thought her thinking of her brother's influence wasn't suspect to me because we all have those negative thoughts and voices.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, in book 2, where she went to Set's place and like destroyed everything and like was having all these doubts about Elend, it was framed that was coming through Zane, but I was like, wait, no, there's something else at work here. That was a part that did kind of like raise a flag for me, but
yeah, how everything came together at the end of this book, I was just like, well, shit, now I have to go back and read the other 2 again. Like,
right. Yeah, Sanderson's good at that. So then, how did you guys feel about the other medals? So like, hang on, I've got it marked. Page 29, we find out about Electrum. And this is a book, this is a medal that they discovered between book 2 and book 3. And I was a little bit, like with all the detail that Sanderson puts in his books, I was a little bit confused as to why we didn't get more about their discovery of that particular medal.
Okay, so your 29 is different than mine, but...
Yeah, hang on, let me see what chapter that's in. It's in 3.
I think the stuff with the medals, especially, that's not gone into a lot of detail here. You get great detail on Era 2, which is I understood a lot more about, like, obviously the as I mentioned, the terrorist population. You get a lot more wasn't on in Era 2 because they've had recovery time, basically. And, but they also, with the way the medals work in that, like, more modern setting, I don't remember if they went more into depth on Electrum, but they did go into a lot more depth on, like, the other medals and stuff like that, and how it, like, impacts society and things. So, yeah, I think that with this one, was this one of the medals that Vin was experimenting with, try and find the
Yeah, like a backup for ATM.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they, like, I guess there could have just been oversight. And he's like, well, I explained that she was trying to find this for a while, so here we are.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of got that. I thought it stood out to me as I was reading. I was like, Electrum, is that the 11th medal? No, it's not the 11th medal. That's so strange. And then we hit this, like, Duralumin, which I think was the 11th medal.
Yeah.
And then I know that, Sammy, you've been reading the 11th medal, right?
Yeah, I read it for a little bit because I was, like, in between books, and I didn't want to get, like, super ahead in Way of Kings, and it's hard to, like, listen to things while I'm working deep as Way of Kings, so I started it, and I was enjoying it, but then I got really busy at work and, like, stopped listening to it, so I'm, like, I don't remember how long the book is, because I'm reading it through the Arcanum Unbounded, because it basically, when you're reading it or listening to it, it basically says, hey, don't read this unless you've read X. So, like, then don't read that, you know. So it's safe to read pieces of it. Like, I'm reading it very piecemeal right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm, like, a little bit into it.
I did read it, but, like, I don't remember it. So that's...
Well, Kelsier's in it, if that sparks your memory.
Well, Kelsier's also in Mistborn Secret History, which y'all should read now that you're done with the series. It's very good.
See, I need to get Arcanum Unbounded so that I can read through these things. Something that I thought very strange that they didn't touch on in the last book in the trilogy, but I'm hoping that he touches on whenever we go through the short stories, is what exactly Kelsier found that changed him so much. Now, like, I suspect that it was that he found the Khandra or something similar, like he found some sign that there was more going on here than we actually thought initially. But I don't have much to go on there except for my own assumptions, but that definitely is something that I'm hoping gets touched on in the short stories.
Are you saying, like, what changed him between, like, his original character and then after the Pits of Halcyon?
Yeah, so, like, in book 1, there's something that they say along the lines of he saw something or he discovered something in the pits that changed him. He's not the same person that he was whenever he went in. And they touch on the fact that it may have been Mara's death, and they touch on the fact that it may have been the fact that he snapped. But he says something along the lines of, whenever I was in the pits, I discovered something that made me see things differently, which made me think, like, okay, he's gotten a bigger picture of something. And he had that relationship with Orsier, which made me think, okay, well, he's gotten in with the Khandra somehow and discovered more there than the reader knows about right now.
So I know the 11th medal is it kind of is covering, like, I don't believe so, Scarlett. So Mistborn Secret Histories covers Kelsier after he died. At the same time, kind of Mistborn era 1 book. So I was trying to, like, not just say, like, Kelsier's not all the way dead. He's like in the limbo, basically, is what you find out. But I don't remember if it has any spoilers for Era 2, but I don't think it did. I read it afterwards, and it might just be safer to do it that way. But the 11th medal is shortly after he gets out of the Pits of Halcyon, is Mistborn training. According.
Okay, so this, sorry to interrupt.
Go
The
ahead.
Miss Secret History page says this novella contains major spoilers for the original Mistborn trilogy and minor spoilers for the Bands of Mourning. So yeah, you should wait until the end of Era 2 to read this if you want to avoid any spoilers at all.
Okay. So whenever whenever he went, I suspect that what happened is whenever he went into the pits of Hathsin, he discovered something with the Kandra, made a contract with Orsir so that he would be consumed by a Kandra because that would somehow indebt him to this like god of preservation and then keep him from actually dying, and it would be like the closest that he could get to immortal life. Now, that's all completely crackpot based on what I've read in Era 1. But that's pretty much my theory.
Some parts of that are not inaccurate, is all I will say. I think a combination of the 11th Metal, the other two stories from the Scadrial Planet, and Mistborn Secret History kind of give you your answers. In conjunction with Era 2, yes. So you have a lot of reading to do, basically.
Spook is not in Era 2, correct? Era 2 is like...
It was a significant time jump.
Like way forward. Okay. Is it like Firefly? I told someone in the Discord that I was like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like Firefly because Western meets sci-fi meets Allomancy.
I have not seen Firefly, so I don't know. But it's
okay.
It's like I would imagine like industrial era stuff. There's like a Wild West situation. I think steampunk is a very good analogy for it.
Okay.
Because they have like pistols that they do stuff with, and it's pretty fun. in addition to Allomancy.
Oh, that's fun because the Lord Ruler kept them from inventing guns. Ooh. Wow. Okay. Damn it. Now I have to get into Mistborn Era 2 really fast.
The audiobooks are good if you want to do that in conjunction with Stormlight.
Oh, God. I don't think I could do it in conjunction with Stormlight. I'm trying to do Stormlight Archive and then the Farseer trilogy, and then I'm going to be getting into the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. I'm doing lots of mean things to myself with my TBR.
I think something else interesting to discuss. I have to hop off here in a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But is to talk about the Kandra in general and like Orsir and all that jazz. Yeah. What are y'all's thoughts?
I think they're interesting. I didn't realize they would have such a big part to play, if you will. Until, because like I was talking to my best friend because she's read The Final Empire, but she hasn't read Well of Ascension or Hero of Ages, and I said, that's fine, you can read The Final Empire and it can just be its own thing, but if you pick up Well of Ascension, you have to realize you also have to read Hero of Ages. Like, you can't just, they're not, their own thing. You have to read them both.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is interesting because Well of Ascension introduces so many new things, Kandra being one of them. Because, like, technically Kandra are in the first one, but not as what I see Kandra as now, which is, Orsir and the dog. Like, that's kind of how I envision Kandra now, is like the whole dog aspect. Which I know isn't totally true, but just in my mind's eye, that's what they look like. And so I just think it's really interesting the part that they actually play in the story.
I like that the Era 2 books are significantly shorter. Yeah, so I was, and I feel like Sanderson does this a lot. He does this thing where, like, you can read through this book and draw conclusions. And then later on, he introduces, like, a completely new concept which alters all the thoughts that you've had on previous book. And like, on the one hand, it's really cool, but on the other hand, it's like, wait, this isn't fair. Like, all of a sudden, the Kandra are some divine entity of some, like, you just blew up my entire perspective on book one, by introducing this other point of view.
I think he kind of did that with the Koloss as well on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, I get why, and it's very artfully done, and I appreciate it. But then on the other hand, for me, someone who I usually ruin a book for myself. Like, by the time I get to the end of a book, I'm like, yeah, I knew all this was going to happen. And then with Brandon Sanderson's books, I can't do that. So then I get to the end and I'm like, that's not fair. You didn't tell me about that part. Mist Wraiths and the Final Empire were interesting, but no idea that they would become, yes, oh my God. And then to find out that they were all just, again, the Lord Ruler's ends did not justify the means.
Yeah.
At all.
I thought the Kandra were really interesting, and they still play a really big part in the second era, so that's really interesting as well. But I will just say I loved. I don't remember what his final name was. The Kandra that didn't eat the other Kandra, basically Tensoon or Orster. I forgot which one. I think it was Orster was the final one.
No,
Tensoon was
the final one.
Yeah,
Tensoon was a solid character, and I enjoyed him. So.
Yes. And then, like, the Kandra as a people were very interesting because they had that whole second generation who were clearly embodying this idea of we can do better than our predecessors, but then their idea of doing better was just by becoming more pretentious. And so it was like, but wait, you've missed the point.
Yeah.
And then to have someone from the third generation come up and be like, no, was like, Yeah, exactly.
The first generation of Kandra, like, when we were told what they actually were, I was like, wait, I'm sorry. He did what to his friends? Like,
yes. Yes. Which is why that whole, like, question about the Lord Ruler is like, man.
Yeah.
What do you mean you did X, Y, and Z because A, B, C? No.
Not a valid excuse. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I guess it's possible that he, having had control of Ruin for as long as he did, was able to see that, like, in some multi-millennial universe, it played out into what we see in Era 2. But I still feel like, I don't know, crazy me. I'm one of those people who feel like genocide just isn't the answer. Like, maybe there's a better way.
Novel concept, for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, they are. They're really cool. And I feel like Sanderson does that a lot. He introduces these, like, completely new creatures into his fantasy worlds, which I really enjoy, like the Spren.
I'm so excited for y'all to keep reading. Yeah. And I feel like we can't avoid talking about the end of this book. I cried quite a bit.
I was sitting at work, so, like, I couldn't, like, super, like, let it out. But if I was home, I would have been, like, it would have been done. Like, I'm not a person that cries in public. So, like, I was just like, but then my coworker has read all of them. So I'm, like, messaging her, or I'm, like, turning her on, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Like, what? She's like, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in my living room, like, free streaming these tears, and my husband's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. He's like, why do you do this to relax? I'm like, shut up. I'm having a funeral.
I will say, for, like, basically self-sacrifice, it was done, like, because I know that's a whole trope where, like, the heroes die to save the rest of people.
That's like the original hero arc, right? Like the hero has to die at the end. It's like the literary hero arc.
It was beautiful, but like I was still mad about it.
Uh-huh.
And I think it like, especially how we see like in the future in Era 2, people like reflecting on, because Vin and all of them are brought up in the future, and it's like, oh, my heart. It like doesn't make it worth it, but it like I thought it was done well, and obviously Sazed had to be the
I really liked that Sazed at the end, whenever he left the thing for Spook, it was like, everybody's happy where they are now, don't worry. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll be fine then.
Are they though? Are they?
I don't know. I trust Sazed. Although maybe I shouldn't. Because here's the thing. Okay, so like, rant. Book 2, he sends Vin off and Ellen so that he can save them in this false quest for the fucking Well of Ascension. And then if he hadn't done that, would we have needed a book 3? Like, would there have been the need for all this fallout and everything to be so horrible if he just hadn't sent the heroes away? Like, why did you do that?
So actually, stuff from Mistborn Secret History will prove that Vin still makes the same choice at the well, which therefore, yeah. So there's an outside player involved.
Okay.
So, okay, you've read Arcanum Unbounded, so the things for Elantris, like the short stories for Elantris, how one of them goes and like it shows a different perspective for the end of Elantris. Does Secret History do that for Mistborn?
I don't think so. I don't remember doing that. You're basically hanging out with pseudo-alive Kelsey at the same timeline of the full books. I don't. I don't remember how it ends though. One moment, I will confer with the end of it.
I will confer with the tome.
I mean, obviously no spoilers, but like,
well, yeah.
I really liked the short story from Elantris, how it was like, you know, it basically showed like, hey, all this crazy stuff was happening, but here's another angle for all the crazy stuff in Elantris.
I feel like Elantris is one of the books that like I need him to be able to finish. You know, like he clearly left so much unsaid at the end of that book that I was like, wait, this is the only book in this series?
So to answer your question, there's not like a differing perspective on the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bands of Mourning is the last one in Era 2, right?
I always got those confused. So I think Alloy of Gods first. So yes. No, yeah, you are right. No, so there's actually going to be a fourth one, but it's not out yet. I was real mad about it because it was supposed to be out already, but then he decided to write Stormlight 4 instead. Which I'm not mad about ultimately, but I was like,
really?
I made the assumption that the next book was going to be available, and I was like, choking as well, but yeah.
All right. That's all I have. That's all I have as far as like discussions. Do you guys have anything else that you want to ask? And we'll give Lachette another couple minutes to bring up something in the comments. But I
will say just as a like commentary that like
that you got guacamole on your elbow. I saw what you did there.
I didn't. Well, it was on my forearm technically, but
you have more politeness than me. I was
Kelsey's brother, I think I'm forgetting his name, Marsh?
Marsh, yes.
Marsh.
Oh,
like I'm still confused like where he's at, because I know he's an Inquisitor, but like he also, I think in book 2 and 3 of Era 1 is like hanging out as the embodiment of death. So I don't know. I still have questions about him.
Yeah.
I was so sad about Marsh because, like, it was brought up so many times that he was the one who started it. You know, like, he was the one who started the revolutions. And then his younger brother, who, okay, so this is something else. Sanderson throwing in these random love interests at the end for emotional impact really gets to me. He did this with Elantris, and he did this with Mistborn. In Elantris, it was oh my god, I can't believe I'm gonna forget his name. The antagonist, and then he had this thing for Serene, and it was like, wait, he what? When? And then with Mistborn, it was like Mare and Marsh, and it was like, come on, like, why'd you have to pull that one? But I really love that Marsh was like, he was actually the martyr. Like, Kelsier knew he was gonna die, but Marsh is the one who went into the freaking swamps with it, and then ended up dying anyway.
Yeah, I still have questions about him, and generally like hemalurgy as well. But also, it's disgusting. I hate like that as a. It's basically like torture killing somebody, and I was not a fan of it as a science or whatnot. But it was interesting for magic purposes.
I wondered why you had to kill somebody for it.
Oh, hey, Brian.
Like, why do you have to kill somebody for hemalurgy to work? You know, like, why can you not just... Because the thing is, do you have to kill somebody for hemalurgy to work? Because didn't Spook's spike that got driven into him that allowed Ruin to work through him and allowed him to get the pewter thing, did the person who gave him that spike, did they die? Because I'm thinking...
I think the guy died.
Did it? Okay, so then I don't really understand why that's the case. Like, why you couldn't just, I mean, like, not that it would make it any less creepy, but if I was like, here, Sammy, let me stab you with this earring, and then I'm going to stab myself with this earring, and then I'll have Sammy powers. Why does Sammy have to die before I'm allowed to have Sammy powers? I don't understand.
I think it's probably something along the lines of, like, to get the power, you have to physically have the life force.
Okay.
But
Simpson Arcanum Abound is Cell, Devotion, and Domination are mentioned from reading Elantris. So, Devotion, Domination, Ruin, and Preservation. Devotion, Domination, Ruin, and Preservation. So then doesn't he have like 4 more series? There's a lot of gods involved here. It's like Sanderson's version of Greek gods.
I'm going to need to take notes on all these different, and where they come from, and
Domination and Ruin. Any magics that could be Domination and Ruin. Domination and... But Ruin was in there. Do you mean...
He means Devotion.
Domination and Devotion? Oh, I mean Devotion. I see it. Yeah. Because of Ruin influence. Devotion because of Ruin influence. So... Oh, well, so I guess Kelsier's religion could have been a manifestation of devotion. Right? Because, like... There were a lot of people that were just like, yeah, Kelsier died. Which I was upset about. Kelsier died, and I was like, I don't even want to read this book anymore.
Yeah, Warbreaker is really good as well, and I think a second book is supposed to come out at some point.
So, like, I bought Warbreaker. It's really pretty. It's like, that's a gorgeous cover. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I love that. Because I thought we were going to read it, and then we just weren't going to have time to do that, plus all the Stormlight archives in a decent amount of time. Anyway, but yes, I'm looking forward to reading Warbreaker, mostly because it's so much smaller than the 3 books that I will be reading before then.
So yeah, Warbreaker is great. I actually thought the magic was just insane, and also there's like, the entire book is full of gods. So, like, when you mentioned Greek gods, it's probably where Scarlet is coming from. But I think the killing someone, like Brian is saying, might be like part of Ruin, just implementing Ruin.
Yeah, you have to ruin something to get the abilities that he's able to, like, put on you, I guess.
Around with, yeah.
That would make sense. I really want Brandon Sanderson to just write a complete manifesto. It's like these are all the Brandon Sanderson thoughts that went into all the Brandon Sanderson novels. It is a complete novel in and of itself that you read after you read all the novels.
So I've mentioned that East of Eden here is my favorite book.
Yes.
So speaking of a manifesto about a book, basically, John Steinbeck wrote a journal, like he wrote on one page of the journal, like his personal thoughts, and then the other side he wrote East of Eden, like every day. So that's basically what this is. And I'm like, so that you basically want this, but for trans.
I would much rather have my so like listen, John Steinbeck. I don't have anything against Steinbeck. He has that old sense of like oh no, what's the word I'm looking for? Like his rhetoric, his tone, his voice is just older. So it is like a little bit more difficult to get through. I really enjoyed his King Arthur story. But I like
hated it.
What is it?
You mentioned that it wasn't done, and then you were mad.
Yes. Like he died before he finished the book, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna get mad at a guy for dying. Not like it was his fault, but that was the first book I'd ever read by the guy, and it was like he didn't finish it. Why am I gonna read more of his stuff whenever the first thing I read by him was not finished? I don't get to find out what happens to Lancelot. I'm upset about it.
Scarlett says that he has his thoughts on each chapter on the website. I have to go check that out now. Not that I don't have enough to read already, but
Sanderson is very good about just giving a lot of his process away. He's very, very good about that. I meant more the influence of domination and devotion on the magic in Cell, the way Ruin and Preservation did for.
So that makes much more sense.
Domination and devotion, as far as Elantris is concerned, we had. God, somebody help me. His name starts with an H.
Hold on.
I'm going to eat my shit because I forgot what the guy's name was, and I don't want.
Casey's like, I don't know. It's like Hrothgar
Hrothgar or whatever.
Hrothgar?
No, not Hrothgar. Is like something in World of Warcraft, isn't it?
I will say in both of the
Hrathen. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so I could see domination being part of Hrathen's magic system. You know, like where they're like possessed by demons or whatever. And then
aside, you know you're having a Brandon Sanderson conversation when almost all of your Brandon Sanderson books have come off your bookshelf and are on the floor next to you.
I have all these and I need to discuss them immediately.
Yeah, that's more clear.
They love these. My way of keeping it together
in my head. So I will say, Brian, that I think Brandon Sanderson uses the influence of the gods on all of the respective worlds for a reason that we don't know yet. But like, I think that the way the gods influence things is definitely important, and it probably has to do with like for the Stormlight Archive, for example, like the heralds and stuff who like abandoned the shard magic and just like went off into the void. That we don't really know much about that yet. So it's
I'm so mad at them for all the shit that's happening to Kaladin right now. Like, this is your fault.
Just wait. You will be okay with it. Well, not okay with it, but like it will be worth it. They're like Harry Potter. You're going to suffer, but you're going to be happy about it. Thing from books. I just watched the third movie recently. Anyways,
Sirius Black. He was my favorite character from that series, and guess what?
He died. Spoiler, sorry, but we're talking.
God, but seriously, you had like 20 years. Like, it's not a spoiler.
Oh, bye. also have to sign off at this point.
Sorry, Lachette.
Yeah.
All right, I actually have to go now, but
Yeah,
this has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, this was very fun with everybody here. So
Yes! Yay! Bye.
Bye, guys.